is that if you can destroy the world 1,000 times versus, for example, if you can have the world destroyed 10 times, there is not a lot of difference. China, you cannot hold a gun to China's head and issue ultimatum and demand all the impossibilities for it. First of all, China's rise is inevitable. No one can stop it. The United States cannot stop it. That's the mega trend. Secondly, this trade war launched by President Trump and his government against the whole world, including China, is the wrong war. And it's not constructive. It throws all the rules of the game out of the window. It damages free trade. And while different countries need to come up with strategies, how do they want to deal with the United States in this manhandling of mankind, China has decided to rise up to the occasion and strongly defend the free trade. China will fight to the end, as the government has declared, and China has now imposed the retaliatory tariff up to 125% against all US exports to China. Now, if things are not handled well, this means complete stop of China-US trade, both ways. No goods exported from the United States to China, and complete stop of everything made in China to the United States. This is decoupling. If the United States wants to really welcome this, China will reciprocate, and causing the breakup of China-US relations. Whether this will evolve from peace to war, well, let's all be prepared. In essence, what China now declares is that it is prepared to fight to the end. Trade war, tariff war, technology war, or real war. So the ball is in Trump's court. You decide, and I will reciprocate. I will never succumb to the US pressure. And this is the moment of truth. China wants to defend free trade. The United States wants to destroy free trade.
Right.
The rest of the world is watching, and there will be a choice by the end of the day.
Stand together. I mean, we're 27 countries, and it's very important that we stand together because our market is bigger than the US market. We are many consumers here on this side. So stand together, and now we are negotiating, and I think that will be fine too.
Different countries may have different views about what the United States is doing, and it wants to tailor-make its response accordingly. That's fine. But for China, you cannot hold a gun to China's head and issue ultimatum and demand all the impossibilities, for example, and ask China to swallow that. China is the country that values dignity and decency and honor more than economic gains or economic losses. So if you want to hold a gun at China's head, China will hold a gun at your head. If you want to strike China in the cheek, China will strike you back. That's the decision and the determination of the Chinese nation. This is not belligerency. This is the minimum decency you need to apply to international relations. How can you demand other countries, I will slap you in the face, don't slap me back, otherwise I will punish you more. That's the law of the jungle. By today, China and the United States can both destroy each other and cause Armageddon for mankind. China wants to pursue peace. The United States is advocating for war, tariff war, trade war, technology war, talent war, and possibly a perverse version of the proxy war or Cold War or hot war. China wants to promote peace of all kinds. Now, for your benefit, China is the largest trading partner with more than 140 countries in the world. Can you believe it? We've dealt with countries of all kinds, different sizes, different conditions, and we treat them equal, big or small. And China wants to pursue peace. China wants to be the barrier, standard barrier of free trade. Now that the United States abandons free trade and uses bullying and intimidation to force other countries to follow its line of thinking. This is not what China wants to do, and China will not accept that.
Vice President J.D. Vance recently said, to make it a little more crystal clear, I'm quoting here, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. So it's maybe not a declaration of war, but it's certainly not a show of respect to another global leader. Is this how a world superpower should behave?
ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on two principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. That is not a recipe for economic prosperity. It's not a recipe for low prices, and it's not a recipe for good jobs in the United States of America.
I'm ashamed by what J.D. Vance said, because he kept talking about the Chinese peasants, etc. Let me make the simple point. The urban population in China is about 3 times as big as the total population in the United States. The middle class in China is more than the total number of the people in the United States. So if J.D. Vance comes to China, he could barely find a peasant at all, because he will see the urban population. And by today, China is one of the leading industrialized nations in the world. Now, talking about intellectual property, let me emphasize one point very briefly. China now has more patent approved every year than the United States. China is a leading nation of protecting IPR. So no more use those misinformation or mislabeling to describe China. China is a fierce defender of the intellectual property rights for its own good, for mankind's good. And the United States has accused China of intellectual theft for something which it does not even have.
That China's rampant theft of intellectual property is real, and that it's not just a problem for the particular company affected, because that capacity to invest and create and protect those property rights underpins the entire innovation economy that we have here in the United States.
Huawei now has more powerful intellectual property rights, creating more wonderful, miraculous products than anything that the United States can dream about.
Is China looking at innovation, at artificial intelligence as a way it can counter perhaps what it doesn't have in tanks and missiles?
Well, talking about the military budget, the US military budget is larger than the next 10 countries' military budget combined together. So the United States has a lot of military budget, a lot of equipment, etc. That's for sure. Now, the point I want to make is that if you can destroy the world 1,000 times versus, for example, if you can have the world destroyed 10 times, there is not a lot of difference. Now, in the world of nuclear age, mutually assured destruction is the rule of the game. Between China and the United States, they have already reached mutually assured destruction if any country wants to use war as an instrument to achieve its geopolitical goals. Both China and the United States can destroy each other multiple times, regardless of whether the United States has a larger budget or otherwise. Therefore, from the Chinese view, the world in the future, according to my personal dream, for example, should be a world of peace, a world every country will be treated equal. Every country respects each other, and no country will be allowed to dominate against any other country. MAGA, or Make America Great Again, is fine, but you cannot achieve that at the expense of other countries. You cannot achieve your greatness by belittling, by delegating or relegating other countries to the lowest echelon of the hierarchy. Every country has its ambition. Every country wants to be in the first front, first row, for example, and no country should be allowed to trample rules of free trade, to trample international order, and to dictate to others, to issue ultimatum, to hold a gun at your head, to demand submission to my will. This is the law of the jungle, and China will never have a part of that, and China will fight to death to oppose that. Everyone knows that the United States has the largest, if not one of the 2 largest nuclear arsenals in the world, and China's warheads added up together only account for a fraction of that of the United States. That's number one. Number two, in terms of conventional weapons, China is a complete match against the United States. And China does not want to look at its neighboring country. We have 14 land neighboring countries. We have 6 maritime neighboring countries. No one is a match against China. China's military buildup, if it is real, is basically to prevent the United States using war as an instrument, try to surprise China and try to wrestle China down, or to delay China, to derail China's peaceful rise. That's the only purpose. Since the end of the Cold War in 1991, how many wars has the United States been involved? The world knows. If the Americans pretend not to know, the world knows. How many wars has China been involved in? Zero. Let me emphasize, zero. This is the track record of China defending peace. And that is the track record of the United States being involved in war after war after war. So I think while the American policymakers in Washington may pretend that they don't know the truth, mankind as a whole knows about the truth. They know China today is the most important stabilizing force in the world. Washington is the most disruptive force in the world. China stands for peace. The United States is eager to use war to solve its geopolitical problems in one region after another. No one can hide away from the hard truth and hard data. That is the world we are faced with.